Prepare yourself for a multitude of really irritating noises from my really irritating cats. Hi guys, it's Caitlin, and it's been a while since I filmed a video, so I thought I would go ahead and do one now. I actually had a video that I meant to upload last week, but my fat-faced cat was being a fat-faced jerk and wouldn't cooperate, so I didn't. It's been a hell of a day, it's been a hell of a week, it's been a hell of a friggin' year. Today I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I have read since I did my last wrap-up video. There haven't been very many, but there's also been a lot. So since my last wrap-up video, which was the end of May, I've read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 books. The first 3 books that I read were actually Captive Prince, Princess Gambit, and King's Rising, the 3 books in the Captive Prince trilogy by C.S. Pacat, and I loved this trilogy. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars in general. I think that I gave King's Rising 4 out of 5 just because I felt like the ending was a little bit too perfect and clean and abrupt, but overall I really loved this. I've discovered this year that I really love LGBT romance, specifically MM romance, which is male-male romance. This is a homonormative culture, meaning that it's considered perfectly normal to have only same-sex sexual partners and relationships in one court, and in the other court bisexuality is completely the norm. And it was just such a good trilogy. I heard a lot of mixed things saying it glorifies rape and abuse, and I don't think it does that at all. There is some situations where rape and abuse and sexual assault does come into it, but it's handled well, I think, and it at no point says this is okay. The characters who it occurs to are not fine with it. They are kind of appalled by it. And just overall, it's really a good trilogy, and I loved it, and I want to reread it so bad because it was so brilliant and beautiful, and I love Laurent, and I love Damon. The synopsis of this story is that Prince Damon, who is the main character, is next in line for the throne. He is the heir to his father's kingdom. Until his father dies, his half-brother stages a coup, fakes Damon's death, and sends Damon to their enemy court as a slave. And Damon wants to figure out how to get back to his kingdom because he doesn't like how it's being ruled and he needs to take his rightful place as king, but he can't tell the enemy court who he is because of all the courts anywhere. This is the kingdom that has the most reason to hate him. And the person who he has been gifted to as a slave, Prince Laurent, hates him more than anybody else. I loved this so much. I can't say enough good things about it. I thought that the pacing was excellent, the characterization was excellent, the storyline was excellent, Laurent is brilliant. I loved Damon. I just loved all the characters. I loved the story. I can't say enough good things about this series, and it definitely gave kind of twists and took different directions that I've never seen before, and this really makes me want to read a lot more MM romance books. Tyrion, now is not the time. I read those 3 books back to back. I couldn't get enough of them, and then I didn't read anything from July 12th until August 3rd. And then the book I read on August 3rd was Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. What the fuck? Miro, stop! Oh my gosh. Miro! If you don't stop that, I am going to murder you. The next book I read was Harry Potter and the Cursed Child by J.K. Rowling, Jack Thorne, and John Tiffany. Maybe I got those last 2 names mixed up, I don't know. But essentially it was the script, parts 1 and 2 for the play that occurs in London, and it follows Harry's son Albus Severus as he's sorted into Slytherin and becomes best friends with Scorpius Malfoy, and it follows their adventures. And I have an unpopular opinion here in that I freaking loved it. I cried reading this. It's a play. It took some time to get into. I didn't go into it expecting it to be a book. I didn't go into it expecting it to be exactly the same. I knew that it was a short story concept that had been created by J.K. Rowling herself, and then a play had been built around it. And I loved it. I don't care what anybody says. I think I gave it like 4 or 4.5 stars. It wasn't as good as the rest of the series, but it wasn't as awful as everybody's saying it is. I just don't understand the hate this book is getting. I liked Albus Severus. I loved Scorpius. I found Harry's behavior completely believable. Like, he's the same person he's always been. He's kind of an asshole. Harry is all... I spoke blasphemy and then I died. Harry has always been kind of an asshole. Like, the first, year at Hogwarts, he was fine, and then he kind of became a big shot and kind of a dick. And that just kind of carried on through this. He always thinks he knows best. He's high and mighty. He knows he's important. Even before he was a big member of the Ministry of Magic, he was the chosen one, so he was important. And that kind of carried on through this. The only character whose characterization I didn't enjoy was Ron's, because he did feel a little bit washed out. I also didn't like Rose Weasley, Ron and Hermione's daughter. I hated her, but overall I really liked this. This totally filled the need in my heart for an alternate universe where Harry and Draco became friends. I really liked this story. I can't say enough good things about it. I might go ahead and do a review just of this book. Comment down below and let me know if that's something you'd be interested in, because I know tons of people have done reviews of this, but all the reviews I've seen have been so negative. So if you want to see a positive review of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, let me know. But I loved it. I cried. I laughed. It gave me all the feels. We were reunited with so many characters, and then they were taken away from us, and we got to go in these different directions and alternate universes, and I just loved it so much. It did read like a Harry Potter fan fiction, but it's canon, and it gave me everything I ever wanted. And there's a reason that so many of us used to read Harry Potter fan fiction, and the fact that this fan fiction is canon just fills me with joy. The next book I picked up was Furthermore by Tahira Mafi. This is her newest book. It is a middle grade fantasy novel following a girl named Alice who lives in a world where everything is all these bright colors because colors denote magic, but Alice herself is pale white, and the only color anywhere on her body is her kind of yellowish eyes. And her father disappeared 3 years ago with only a ruler into this land known as Furthermore, which is just kind of like this whimsical, dangerous land. And she ends up having to team up with this boy named Oliver, who she hates and has hated forever, to go save her father. I liked this. I gave it 4 stars. I just thought it was beautiful. I usually have a lot of trouble getting into middle grade novels, but I loved this one. I loved Alice. I loved Oliver even more. I was kind of disappointed that it was middle grade, because if it had been YA, we could have gotten some more romancy aspects, and that's really what I wanted. But I really loved it. It was so beautiful, and her poetic writing took a whole new turn. It was just the way that she phrases things and the way her imagination works, Tahira Mafi's, is just brilliant and beautiful, and I loved this book. But my only problem, and the reason I knocked 1 star off, is that I don't like how she does her endings. I find her endings really disappointing. They always seem kind of like rushed and condensed and incomplete. The next book that I picked up, I also gave 4 stars, and that is Day Zero by Cressley Cole. This is book 3.5 in the Arcana Chronicles. It's essentially a collection of novellas following all of the characters in the Arcana Chronicles, like all the major arcana, and what they were doing leading up to the big apocalyptic event that started this tarot war. For those of you who don't know, the Arcana Chronicles basically follows a bunch of people who, after a post-apocalyptic event, find out that they are the human embodiments of tarot cards. They have these abilities, and every certain amount of years, an apocalyptic event happens to the earth. The tarot cards are reanimated into human form, and they have to fight to the death, and only one person can win, and then that person remains immortal until the next battle. And this basically just kind of gave us the backstory about all of the human tarot cards, what they knew going into it, what they had to find out, and it kind of gave you a good idea of where they're going to stand as the story commences. And I really enjoyed it. There were a few stories that I didn't like as much. There were a few that I wish could have been expanded on, but overall I really liked it, and I'm glad that I picked it up, and I'm glad that I read it. The next book I picked up was Grill of Nightmares by Kendar Blake. This is the second book to the Anna Dressed in Blood duology. I loved Anna Dressed in Blood last year. This one didn't do it for me though, unfortunately. I only gave it 3 stars because it was good, but I didn't like it as much. It kind of lost the exciting aspect. Anna wasn't really in it. I didn't like the character dynamics and kind of the dramas that they went through. Like, I found them realistic, but overall the story just didn't have the same excitement for me as the previous one did. It was a little bit slow, and I just didn't love it as much, and I didn't like the ending very much at all. And you probably saw that I am getting rid of that duology in my unhaul video because I was so disappointed by the last one. Anna Dressed in Blood follows a boy named Kaz who is a ghost hunter. He travels the world going to these haunted places and killing these ghosts that are killing people, but he only kills those ones, and then he kind of gets called to this town because there's this legendary girl ghost named Anna Dressed in Blood who kills all sorts of people. The next book I read was You by Caroline Kepnes. Goodreads says it's the first book in a series, and that is terrifying. I cannot stand to read another book about that guy. You is a first-person narrative told to the person that he's stalking. He meets this girl at the bookstore he works in, gets her information off of her credit card, and then starts stalking her on social media and kind of orchestrating events so that he becomes involved in her life. He is insane. And like, you start to feel like you sympathize with him, and then you're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? He's a fucking psychopath. It's terrifying. I can't even express to you how creepy and weird this book was. It was very interesting, very creepy. I liked it. I did find that when I would put it down though, I wouldn't want to pick it back up because it was so freaking weird. So it took me a while to finish it, but I ended up giving it 4 stars because it was a really good book. There was just something about it that I didn't like, and honestly, it might just have been that it creeped me out too much and it was too fucking weird. But holy shit, if you want a freaky book that will fuck up your whole entire life, read that one. And then make all your social media accounts private. And then the last book I read was The Girl in 6E by A.R. Torrey. This is the first book in, I believe, a trilogy, and it essentially follows a girl addicted to killing people. If she sees someone, she kills them, so she is a cam girl to make money, and she locked herself into her apartment and she hasn't left in 3 years. And it kind of follows her life as she starts to get involved in this situation where she thinks that a little girl is in danger and she starts to wonder if she can help. And just overall, it's a really good book. I gave it 4 stars. I really loved the main character. I really loved the story. I just couldn't give it the full 5 stars because there were just a few moments that I felt like were a little bit too manipulated into being. It kind of felt like the ending was a little bit too clean and perfect. And I know that's not the case because there's 2 more books in this trilogy following the same character, and I know things get pretty messy for her from there, but overall I really like this book and I would highly, highly recommend it, especially if you're interested in kind of an interesting take on the whole thriller mental illness aspect. It's a book unlike anything else I've ever read, and I really enjoyed that. Overall, I've liked most of them, as you can tell. The other 2 books I've tried to pick up have been Love Letters by Debbie McComber. I'm only like 50 pages into that one. I like it okay. It's basically kind of dual perspective. One of the perspectives it follows is a woman who owns an inn, and another perspective it follows is this woman who's having marital problems with her husband, and they go to stay at this inn. And I don't really know what the whole point of the story is going to be yet. I'm just still in this reading slump, so it's really hard for me to get into anything. I also have tried to pick up The Hobbit. I'm actually about 3/4 of the way through, but oh my god, is that book boring. I'm sorry, I know that Tolkien is beloved and the Lord of the Rings trilogy and The Hobbit are some of the most classic examples of fantasy literature in existence, but if I have to read one more segment of these people frickin' singing, or one more segment of The Hobbit somehow saving the day because those dwarves are that fucking stupid, I think I might kill myself. I didn't even like the movies, but somehow the book is worse. You're vastly superior to me if you have read The Hobbit and enjoyed it. The last book that I've attempted to read is Arcana Rising, which is the 4th book in the Arcana Chronicles by Cressley Cole. It is her newest release in this series. The next one comes out, I want to say, in January or February. And I tried and I just couldn't. I had to stop. Because it's not that I don't want to read it. It's not that I don't like it. It's not that it's not interesting. My problem is I haven't read those books since over a year ago. It's been like a year and a half since I last read a book in the Arcana Chronicles. And I can't remember it. And I don't want to reread the whole trilogy to get to the 4th book, but I think that's what I'm going to have to do. And it's just such a freaking downer. But yeah, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. Those are the books that I've read and attempted to read since May. I'm not going to reach my goal of reading 55 books because it's currently the end of November and I have read 38. And, you know, I have a lot of faith in my reading abilities, but I really don't think I'm going to read 17 books in the next 33 days. It's just not going to happen. But NaNoWriMo's going well. I'm on point. I'm gonna beat NaNoWriMo, except now I probably just jinxed myself. Anyway, go ahead and comment down below. Let me know which of these books you've read, which ones you want to read, what you thought of them if you did read them. Comment down below also and tell me if you want me to do any in-depth reviews of these individual books. Talk to me about the books down below. I love to hear from you guys, and that's all I've got to say for now. Thanks so much for watching. Bye! He wants to go outside, but he has to stay in because he had some revolution toxicity, and I have to watch him to make sure he doesn't have a seizure and die. Plus, he's still wet because I had to give him a bath. I don't know what you want from me. I tried my best. I was just trying to help you.